9/11, Pearl Harbor, Tiananmen Square massacre, Armenian genocide, Nagasaki, hold on. 9/11 was a tragedy. 9/11 was a tragedy, making money magically. This a masterpiece. I'm young. How I'm feeling, 100 bands on me like I'm trying to pop a watermelon. 6 million. That beat was from the Discord. Shout out to you who made that. That was a good plug beat. Had me feeling happy and giddy. Thank you. I always dreamed the boy I loved would come along, and he'd be tall and handsome, rich and strong. Now the boy I love has come to me, but he sure ain't the way I thought he'd be. But he's sure the boy I love. These are the lyrics from a song from the 60s called He's Sure the Boy I Love by the Crystals. You've probably heard it in a movie soundtrack, maybe. Goodfellas, perhaps. There's something kind of beautiful about that, is there not? You can have all these expectations of being swept off your feet. And this applies to both genders, but you know, it is mostly women who act like this. It's profound because it's not the appearances, it's not the height, the money, the attractiveness that creates the love. So long as a higher love actually exists, it's created through the process of loving itself and just being there and having someone. There's something pretty about that, is there not? Unfortunately, while you're rotting alone in your room, your looks match is getting double teamed by Chad and Tyrone. There are many lonely young bachelors today who, if they're not tall and handsome, rich and strong, they're not getting the chance at all. And if they do, it's not going well. And there are many reasons why this is happening, but we can summarize the situation by basically just saying that there has been a breakdown of monogamy. Monogamy, mono being one, gamos meaning marriage in the general sense, like union. It's when people get together young and they stay together for the rest of their lives. They're paired together young and they stay that way. If you would make a study of current dating systems that we have today, you would observe that our society is not monogamous. It just isn't. Monogamy has been replaced by other systems of mating. Serial monogamy, rotating polyandry, hypergamy, all sorts of stuff. Poly meaning multiple or many, so this is polygamy. Or polygyny specifically is when one man has multiple women. And hyper meaning above, so hypergamy. If you're familiar with the red pill talking points, this is a common thing. The tendency of women to date above them, hypergamously. Above them in height, above them in looks, above them in wealth, social status. We're seeing many attempts at monogamy, but we're not really seeing people get together young and then stay together. This is becoming quite rare today. And this seems to be because there needs to be a societal pressure, something upholding and supporting monogamy. When people are left to their own devices, this is not the mating patterns that emerge, evidently. Hypergamy and monogamy are totally distinct mating systems. Because while hypergamy, the context is you would want one guy who's at the top, but the top is always changing. It's fundamentally irrational because it all depends what you're valuing, what you're looking for at the time. One guy will be rich, one guy will be tall, one guy will be super handsome, one guy will be super socially dominant. When you're looking for a guy who has all these things, he's completely elusive. So it's a fundamentally irrational and self-destructive instinct, but I'm getting ahead of myself. At any rate, the breakdown of monogamy seems to leave a lot of men, in particular, lonely, destitute in relation to their ability to find a romantic partner. The most striking statistic of the last few years is that in the under 30 age bracket, there are nearly twice as many single young men, as there are single young women. And on the surface, this doesn't even make sense, but there are ways it can be explained. And this is a problem. And this whole situation has been dubbed the male loneliness epidemic. And what I wanted to talk about today, there's this take going around that really grinds my gears. It's basically saying that male loneliness it's just natural selection. So the implication is that this is a healthy evolutionary process that would create a more fit population. And it goes right along with this idea I've heard from incels and women too, that this is eugenic, that hypergamy is eugenic, that women are eugenic now. And this is not the case. Hypergamy is dysgenic. The only conceivable, plausible system of mating that is eugenic is monogamy. And there is no civilization across all of history that would suggest anything different. And of course, with monogamy, there would be no male loneliness epidemic. And this might seem counterintuitive. I get where you're coming from. If women are not attracted to most men and they're just going for these top tier men, and the top tier men are spreading their genes and they're continuing along and they're getting most of these women pregnant, then the inferior manlet incel genes die off and the whole population becomes more fit and eugenic, right? I get it. It seems it makes sense, but there are a few big problems with this and reasons why this hasn't been replicated in any culture or civilization throughout history. The only civilizations that have reached heights and produced higher IQ, taller, everything you would associate with being eugenic, they have been monogamous. There are three problems with this. There are reasons both genetic and social. But the first reason is that women also pass along their genes. The kid doesn't just get the Chad father's genes, they also get the mother's genes. And if the mother is like, a 3 out of 10, like the looks match of some guy who's an incel now, you can use height for an example, right? If the mother's like 5 feet tall and the guy's 6'3", their sons, if through genetic recombination, if they have 3 sons, one of those motherfuckers is going to be like 5'6", 5'5". They're going to get the mother's height. I mean, a lot of people suggest that height usually comes from the mother. Not saying that height is ultimately eugenic or better. Once you get past like 6'4" as a man, it actually is associated with mutational load. And, the highest IQ populations are Asians who aren't that tall. So it's not like an ultimate thing, but just as an example, through genetic recombination, that you're going to have a 5'6" son, and then he's going to be an incel. And then since this son is going to be raised in a culture where monogamy is not practiced, there's going to be all these people, because these little dysgenic women are dating these chads, but then the dysgenic genes get passed on through the sons, and then they're incels. And what this creates, now we get into the social problems, is a bunch of excess men. And what happens when there's a lot of excess men is that they destroy society. They engage in antisocial behavior, because their basic needs aren't being met. And you can't just kill these guys off without more being born through the dysgenic women. The only way this would feasibly work is with like some crazy gene editing, new authoritarian system. It's just not, it's not feasible. It'd have to be like fucking Gattaca or Red Rising or some shit. And that's dystopian. That's a dystopia. Hence why it's dysgenic. In a hypergamous system, there's always going to be excess men. And then they engage in antisocial behavior. And this is why civilization cannot be built. If all of these excess men are inevitably going to be born, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And people would ask, well, why is this not happening now in America if the problem's so bad? There are two ways to look at it. You could say it's not that bad yet, or you could say it's because of sedation. Like men are able to satisfy these needs through other means, like pornography, things like this. And this technology will keep getting better, ostensibly. It's because they're They're satiated. If they didn't have that by now, you could say shit would have gone down. So women's genes are contributing too, and there are a ton of excess men, which is not a formula to create society. They're also not invested, so they stop doing things that prop civilization up. If they don't have the foundation of a relationship, they're going to stop supporting. Like, they're not just going to work to prop up the system. They're going to give up. They're going to drop out completely. Now, we are seeing that. We are seeing the beginning of this, certainly. And this is a form of antisocial behavior. Another form of antisocial behavior, which occurs when there are excess men, I've talked about this before, this idea of mogging and looks-maxing. Think about it. It's not a pro-social way of thinking, looking around, oh, am I mogging? Am I mogging this guy? Do I mog? Could I fuck more women? Oh, do I mog? Is my jawline? The people are doing this to their friends. It degrades. Here's the real problem. I'm going to talk about this later. I think I want to make a whole video about this. Hypergamy in this situation, it degrades male friendship. One of the big good things about monogamy, it reduces intrasexual competition. So men aren't thinking like this. Like, if you have an actual friend, the Aristotelian idea of a friend, it's a higher form. It's not just some guy you go around. It's not like a pack of animals. It's a friend. Someone who's there for you through thick and thin. You know, if a wolf gets hurt and it keeps up with the pack leaves him. If you have a real friend, a higher human ideal of a friend, he's there for you thick and thin, right? And you're not looking around at other men going, am I mogging? Am I mogging? Am I better than him? That's not a social way to think with a real community of friends. This is an animalistic, primitive way of thinking. And you adopt this animalistic, primitive way of thinking because you are competing for women now. You have to compete over women. In a situation where you all have that taken care of by the time you're in your early 20s, you know, this is the monogamous system. You all get paired up. You can look beyond that and you can have actual friends. And you see this now, guys are like starving animals. And it makes it harder for a lot of men to have friends. Really think about this mogging looks back and shit. It's incredibly antisocial. It's intrasexual competition. And it doesn't happen when people are just paired off young and they're able to focus on bigger things, better things, and actual have real deep, you know, like a platonic idea of a friend. Anyway, I digress. There are massive social consequences to having these excess men, and women's genes contribute too. Women's genes contribute too. How can it be eugenic? A good example is Tom Aspinall, the current UFC heavyweight champion. 6.5 feet tall, big, 260, something like this, but very fast, moves like a lightweight. You could argue, people argue, this man could beat any man in history in hand-to-hand combat. Seems pretty eugenic, right? His dad's like a 5'7", 5'8" British guy. And before people go, oh, you know, his mom like fucked the milkman, just shut the fuck up. You can clearly see the facial resemblance. Stop coping. Now, this is not to say that every time a short guy gets with a tall girl, it produces like Giga Chad, but it's just to say that women's genes contribute too. The reason why he's like this is because his mother, you know, his Chad British father who trained martial arts, who brought up his son who became the champion, he got some tall girl. And that's goals, honestly. And yeah, you see videos of this guy standing next to his dad. It's crazy. He's like way bigger, but it happens. A lot of situations, both famous people and people I know. If their mom's tall, the son is tall. It happens a lot. But it's not even about this, okay? What I'm getting at is that the only conceivable system which is eugenic, it's counterintuitive, but every guy has to have their needs met. Otherwise, civilization can't be built. If civilization can't be built, then we can't acquire resources. We can't build new technology. We can't create mathematics, arithmetic, music, great art, structures that push the human race further. As humanity progresses further, as we acquire more resources, as we elevate science, technology, we interact with better arts, we're closer to higher forms, we get taller, we get smarter. This cannot happen. This cannot happen in this carnal, primitive, hypergamous, polygynous system. It does not happen. It never has happened. It is impossible for it to happen. That's really what I'm getting at. And this is replicated all throughout history. Monogamy started, we could trace it back to the ancient Greeks, then to the Romans, then to Christianity, and Christianity made it a thing. A society that creates mathematics and great music, that creates Mozart and Isaac Newton and whatever else, the Sistine Chapel, the Big Ben, it doesn't fucking matter. It has to be monogamous. It cannot not be monogamous. Everything will be destroyed if there are excess men. And like people, and this is the problem with modern day I'm going out on so many tangents, dude. I haven't even gotten to the third thing yet, which is the big deal. But this trad stuff. When people talk about being trad today, these hoes are not trad. These trad thoughts are not trad. Trad is getting with short, ugly guys. That's what trad is. I'm not kidding. Short, ugly guys have to have a wife that stays with them for the rest of their lives. Trad women today, they're trad for Chad. Is also what monogamy does. If you're paired up young, if you have that taken care of, you know how much time guys waste, and women waste, I guess, with the whole dating thing? You're going out, you're spending all this time, you're trying to get laid, you're going on all these dates, trying to find the right person. It takes forever. Do you know how many hours and energy is spent? If people have that figured out young and it's just done, they then can focus on doing whatever. And usually they focus on, I don't know, learning skills, learning great things that help everybody in civilization. If you examine the great men who created the great things that we take for granted today, they were either celibate, asexual, weird guys, or they were married young. That had to be the case for all of them. They couldn't be concerned with this kind of stuff. And society can't progress if people are concerned with this well into their 30s. Like, this stuff has to be figured out when you're 20. So then the rest of your 20s, you can learn things that help everyone. Instead of trying to get pussy, have fun in your 20s. Fuck like a monkey instead of building things that help everybody live and survive. We're dead. The whole thing is fucked. We're dead. But okay, I'm going on tangents. All of that, the crazy thing is all of that is operating under the impression that women's sexual selection is like perfect and eugenic. They are selecting for the best men, but that's not even true. Even if all that was true, you'd still have this big problem with their genes being passed on and having these excess men that destroy everything, but they're not even selecting for the best men. When this goes off the rails and when we embrace carnality and we're not checking our darker instincts, we don't have structures that point us to the right direction, women select for lower impulse control, lower IQ. It's just like pure dominance. Estimated coefficients of true polygenic scores on relative lifetime reproductive success. People with depressive symptoms, asthma, ever smoker, people who smoke a lot of cigarettes. Height, not even a strong. See a lot of Zoomers. I hear from a lot of Zoomer incels, people like this. Oh, like the average Gen Z man is like 6'1". The average white Zoomer is like 6'1". You have to be 6 foot or it's over for you. I'm not the kind of person who buys this. I don't believe it at all. People are getting dumber and shorter. They're not getting taller. They're not getting smarter. Everything about it is declining. I don't think the average Zoomer is shorter. The average height is just correct. The average guy is like 5'9", 5'10". I think it's just mental illness. There's nothing to suggest that taller people have been reproducing more. I think it's because of this aforementioned intrasexual competition. You're always looking around, who's taller, and you're looking at the top of their head with your eye level, something like this. I mean, I'm a middling height guy. I'm in one of the taller areas of America, the middle of America, higher white population. It's taller than, Texas, California, or New York. And I walk around and most people are around my height. Most guys are around my height. Some are shorter, some are taller. About half are taller, about half are shorter. I see no. I think 5'6" guys are just like see a 5'10" guy and they're like, oh fuck, he's like 6'2" because they think they're 5'10". I don't know what it is. It doesn't happen to me. When I go to Texas, I feel tall. I spend a lot of time in Texas and in Mexico too. I feel tall there. I don't know where these people are coming from. Maybe I saw a comment because I made a video about this, like, are young men taller? Or is the average man taller now? Height inflation? And people are like, I'm from Mexico and the average young Mexican is 6'2", bro. I spent time in Mexico recently. If you think the average young Mexican guy is 6'2", if you went to the Netherlands, you'd think they're fucking 8 feet tall. You just don't know what height is. You don't know how to measure it. Women are not eugenic. Look at this. ADHD, highly selected for by women. Smoking again. Major depressive disorder. Coronary heart disease. I mean, what the fuck? There's a lot of stuff like this. There's a lot of studies that have shown in particular high IQ men have a harder time with dating, especially now. So no, women aren't even selecting for the best guys. Even if they were, it would still be fucked. So no, male loneliness is not natural selection. Hypergamy is not eugenic. And when I see incels saying this, I get the general idea. You're giving it too much credit. You're taking away the moral weight. There's nothing that's good about it. Leaving all these guys without a partner. Young men and young women have to get together in monogamous relationships young and build lifelong partnerships. This is how people are happier, they live longer, they're able to focus on other things. And really it's automatically disproven by every eugenic qualification is actually fallen. It's actually falling in recent births and in recent decades. IQ being one of the main ones because it's a big predictor of future success. I don't know if it's like a perfect thing, but it obviously it has a lot of predictive power. Monogamy is the only thing that's eugenic. And the future belongs to people who are able to become aware of their carnality, their darker human nature, and consciously transcend it. And we used to have a whole civilization, a whole structure that guided people along this way. But it's gone now. And people said it was suppressive, it was oppressive. But the old way, it wasn't shackles, they were just guideposts. They were guideposts to make you happier and healthier, but you thought they were shackles. So you went your own way and you just jumped right into a pit of snakes. That's what happened to you. Because, they were shackling you down. No, they were just telling you the right way to go, but your dumbass just jumped in the pit of snakes. I don't know if it's gay to say, but, like, if you're a person and you're born, you have a deep need to have love, have romantic love, and it's something that you should have. And it's not eugenic if you don't have it. It's eugenic if everybody has that. Unless you're genuinely, fucked. But I'm saying like the vast majority of people. So what I'm saying is I think if we want to have a monogamous society again or create monogamous communities or anything, we have to first acknowledge that we have to acknowledge and deeply comprehend that we're not really naturally monogamous. I don't believe we are. Only a few mammals, period, are monogamous. And those mammals aren't even dimorphic. Meaning you can't even tell the men and women apart, the males and females. Humans are dimorphic. Men are like 20% bigger than women and produce way more sperm than women do eggs. So there's nothing in our mammalian biology that would suggest that we could just that we would just naturally tend towards monogamy. It doesn't happen. This needs to be an exercise of our conscious will. It's the natural order of things. I'm not going to apologize for getting metaphysical anymore, but it's like humans are animals, but we're not. There's certainly an animalistic quality, and we devolve into it. But if we were just animals, how did we create the great things, the great peaks of civilization in the first place? I mean,
I don't know, bro. Bluetooth? That shit's pretty crazy. Oh, we're just animals? Explain that shit.
And we create great, flourishing civilizations where people don't live like animals, where a bunch of men aren't dying without having ever made it, or a bunch of people aren't starving, and people all have homes, beautiful homes, and they're working and creating and is progressing. All of these things happen when we have systems which transcend our animal psychology, and at that point we are quite distant from animals, really, if you look at peak civilizations. And just when we became decadent, like the boomers, like the sexual revolution, now look at where we are now. Everything's declining. You think it's a coincidence? It's all connected, Holmes. The future belongs to people who control their darker nature. It belongs to the monogamous. And monogamy is eugenic, and natural selection. And what's the video? Male loneliness is not natural selection. Male loneliness means that everything's over. Male loneliness is dysgenic. Male loneliness means you're fucked too, lady. Women who say this. All right, peace.